Hey everyone. So I've come up with an idea of something I want to do. I'm going to be on tour for the rest of my life, hopefully. And I think I want to start featuring really cool or awesome or just interesting disc golf courses while I travel. Now I've become inspired to do this because I came to a course that has inspired me this much. So I'm up here in Idaho, North Idaho, at the Farragut tournament, Farragut State Park. Fantastic. 5 courses from one parking lot. Definitely a destination. They're amazing. But while I was at the tournament, a player comes up to me and says, you can't be all the way up here without playing around a golf at Caliber. It's this course an hour north at Sandpoint, Idaho. It's basically Canada. It's amazing up there. Well, I appreciate it. I'm always flattered that people reach out to me, but I also take it with a grain of salt because everywhere I go, people want me to come play their home course or, you know, some really cool private course. So didn't give it much thought. And then a second person came up to me, said the same thing. And then a third person, and then an 8th person. And no exaggeration, no less than 30 people came up to me and said, you've got to go play Caliber. So I was going to go to southern Utah after the tournament. I decided to head up north to play a round of golf up here. And I've now been here for 6 days. Unfortunately, I have to leave. But this may be the best disc golf course I've ever played in my entire life. And I say maybe because there's great courses everywhere. I often get on a course and think this is the best course I've ever played. But there is no better course. I will guarantee there's not a better course out there than Caliber. In Sandpoint, Idaho. So I want to do a little video and just talk about this. Now, in addition to this, I have a podcast that's coming out very soon. I decided to also, for podcast episode number 2, I sat down and interviewed the owner because this whole story of how this course went into the ground and the story behind it and his philosophy is just brilliant. So there's going to be a link at some point, podcast number 2, about the course as well, but I want to do a video just about the course. So sorry for the long intro. Future ones won't be this long, but that's kind of the backstory, how I wound up here. So, come to find out, the way this course has been built is this is what happens when somebody who loves the sport buys 40 acres of land, basically on top of a mountain, and then spends 3 years removing 4,000 trees to custom design every single hole exactly to the specifications. And basically, because there were so many trees, it was such a dense forest. I mean, I'll be moving the camera around, but because the forest looked like this, he effectively got to plant trees wherever he wanted them on the fairway simply by going the opposite direction and removing the trees. It kind of reminds me, I heard that some of the great ancient sculptors used to do that, where they didn't carve a sculpture of a Greek god. Instead, the Greek god existed inside this big chunk of marble, and all they did is remove the excess marble, and the work of art was already waiting there for them. That's basically what he did at this course. He came out here, he spent a year just walking the course to make sure he got everything just perfect, and then he went to work on it. In the process, he's spent in the ballpark of $400,000 on this course between heavy machinery, tee pads, just everything he's put into this thing. And I mean, from what I've been told by everybody, he also spends 70 hours a week on the course and has done this for at least the last 3 years. I'm sure there's a few months in the winter. It's North Idaho where it's snow, but he is obsessed with making this the best course in the world. And he built it for himself and his friends. It's open to the public. If you contact him, you're welcome to come play it. He would love to have you, but he didn't build this to be anything more than that. I'm going to give you just a quick walkthrough of a little bit of the details of this course that are so amazing. First and foremost, the holes are they're flawless. They're the perfect balance of every single one of them is fair. There's no luck on this course. Every single one of them is fun because there's risk reward. He described fun as it needs to create enough of a challenge that when you succeed, you feel good. That's exactly what this does. There's not a single hole in this course that you don't feel good if you do well on. At the intermediate or advanced level, that's just going to be a par. on a lot of these holes, but you will feel good about your par. It's a par 65. So the holes, there's variety. By the way, there's trains that come through here. They come by every 7 minutes down in the valley, so I'm not stopping because of trains. So, but you're gonna hear trains. In fact, let's call them starting horns to announce the tee time for this course. I don't know. So he's put these the beautiful constructed manicured holes, these gorgeous fairways that he's built out of the side of a mountain. Next are going to be the tee pads. Now, every single hole except for 3 have 2 tee pads. It's not that unusual. But what he's done is he did not look for 2 natural places to put a tee pad. He didn't say, I want 1 tee pad here and I want another tee pad here, but the ground's flat over there. When necessary, he constructed every single tee pad from the ground up. Now, I heard the story about how these tee pads went in the ground. First off, he built it with it's crushed rock. So it's almost like dirt, but it's crushed rock, but it's the type of rock he gets, it doesn't roll off itself. It settles together to basically form effectively like concrete. Because I asked him, I said, well, what happens when the tee pads erode? Because if you can see, every tee pad with the AstroTurf he puts on there, every tee pad is perfectly flat. I said, that's great, but what happens, you know, this is kind of like rock and dirt. What happens when it erodes? And he tells me, don't need to worry about it eroding, because what he does is he puts it in place, he soaks it with water multiple times, and then lets it sit for a year before he puts the tee pad on. So in order to make the best tee pads possible, the tee pads were all a year in the making to get them perfect. And they are perfect. Not only are they perfectly flat and not eroding, but there's enough room. I'm gonna take the camera off now. There's enough room behind each tee pad for proper run up. He doesn't want lefties and righties to be inhibited by obstacles or terrain that causes a more difficult run up for one player over the other. There's tons of variety on the holes for lefty and righty shots, old school, but that's what we used to call them. But you're not thwarted by the terrain if you throw one hand or the other. I'm going to walk down real quick. So I was on the tee pad of hole 4, and we're going to just drive 1 or 2 of the holes. But this is basically what the tee pads might look like. So you got the pro tee from behind, of course, all the beautiful benches, tee signs. You got they call it the advanced AM tee. The advanced AM holes are hard, not unfair, unfun hard, but you're going to definitely earn it on these holes. Now, one thing that is really cool about this are going to be the tee signs. Now, when I show this to you, you're going to say, yeah, well, it looks real nice. There's nothing special about that tee sign. That's what I thought. One of the problems with tee signs is they're notoriously bad as far as measurements. Usually they're just estimates, or the person measures an arc in a fairway, which basically you have to guess what they think the flight of the disc is going to be for the measurements. So the measurements are off. So the measurements here are flawless. But more important than that, this tee sign right here actually tells you not only where the hole is, but every single obstacle on this tee sign has been measured to the foot with aerial photography, with surveyor's equipment, with measuring tape. It's one of the first tee pads. I'm sorry, I know there's people have put a lot of work into it besides just this one course, but it's one of the first courses I've ever played where you can step up to a par 4 or a par 5 and not have to walk up to the hole and be able to play the shot. Because all you got to do is look at the tee pad, look at the first obstacle on the tee pad, and you'll get an exact to scale measurement of how big the gaps are, how far you have to get past an obstacle before the hole turns. None of it's estimates, and that's seems like that might not be a big deal, but at the highest level, when you have really good fine control over your throws, knowing within a margin of like 5 or 10% of how far an obstacle is the difference between success and failure. Tee signs have nailed it absolutely perfectly. So that's the basic overview of the hole. By the way, we're on the long tee of hole 4 now, and we're just going to drive a hole or 2 and kind of show you guys what we got, or not what we got. I wish it was mine. what what Paul has built for us. So this is the long tee pad, this is the fairway as it begins. We're going to be passing the advanced AM tee, which the advanced AM tee is 627 feet. Go down the fairway, we have a split fairway. Let's take the lefty route. So we're going to go to the left side. It's a split fairway, so you have an option of which way to throw. They're not all like that. A lot of them make you throw the shot. This is one of the ones that gives you the opportunity to throw both. By the way, this is what we used to call drones back in the old days. So right here, you crest the hill because with an elevation change, you're now 270 feet from the hole. This is out throughout the course. And now you arc down a hill to the basket of hole 4. The basket is protected by a couple trees, so you're still forced to hit your line. You're not allowed to cop out at any point. You have a good landing area, a fair basket that doesn't have any luck involved, and of course you have the sign telling you how to get to the next hole. Absolutely perfect. It's a perfect par 4 pro hole. And here's hole 18. It is really important that Paul says you have to have a really good finishing hole, which I think most people agree with, but of course he, like everything else, just absolutely nailed it here. So we're going to go ahead and drive the long tee for hole 18. There's the easy 590-foot advanced AM tee. Just perfect. Relatively flat for the first 150 feet. And then you want to have a pretty darn good placement shot because, and by the way, absolutely plenty of room to hit the fairway and get a good landing zone. But you definitely want to get to the crest of this hill because at this point it drops straight down another couple hundred feet to the basket, which is right by the clubhouse, parking lot, Tournament Central. It's even setups and left, so there's a couple trees that stop you from having just the easy natural righty or lefty hyzer to the hole. You actually have to play and nail and execute your shot every single time. You get back to Tournament Central. I've been told this is going to become a clubhouse back here.
This is going to get bulldozed in a new clubhouse.
Okay, so no, I was told he's going to bulldoze it and put a new clubhouse in. So let's do one other thing. Can you drive over? We're going to take a little drive to the parking lot. We don't even need to edit this part. Can you go to the tee pad of hole 1 of the new course?
Turn here.
I want to show one last thing, just to show you the attention to detail that's been put into this course. So apparently this course wasn't enough. He's going to build a second course, or sorry, he is in the process of building the second course. And these right here are the tee pads of the hole. Now the reason this is important, I'm going to walk up. By the way, this is the machinery that's necessary to excavate this entire course. So this is the tee pad. This is the rock and dirt that we talked about. The reason this is important is that if you go up to this T-pad right here, and you step on this T-pad, the T-pad was built, remember, like 4 months ago, and is going to be sitting all winter in order to settle, is that you're going to be throwing over the crest of this hill, and from here you have a line that can get you down the fairway. If you used the available land and just simply got down to this height right here, which is only about 3 feet lower, you would be cresting the hill, the disc would fly into the air, it could not fly down the fairway. So what he had to do was build this tee, and then of course that tee pad as well. He built them specifically up because the hole would be much worse just 3 feet lower. I asked him what it cost to do this, and he says $1,500. So basically, just the first 2 tee pads on the first hole of this new course, $1,500, and they have to settle for like a minimum of 8 months, just because that extra 3 feet of height makes enough of a difference on the hole. I mean, that's the attention to detail that's gone into this course, the work and effort. It's ungodly. There's nothing like it. And by the way, that's what the mess looks like as he's removing more trees from the course. So yeah, it's been a real treat. This is incredible. Hey everyone, I'm now on Patreon. Click the link below. Not only keep the free content coming with tutorials, tips, podcasts, etc., but get a bunch of free stuff like live stream Q&As, copy of my book, voting on topics, behind the scenes, bunch of cool stuff. Click the link down below to join.